The shed wasn't big, it wasn't flashy. It was a simple, neutral-colored storage shed, placed at the back corner of my yard, tucked behind a fence, and barely visible from anywhere else. I needed it for lawn equipment and tools, nothing more. I followed the rules, or at least, I thought I did. I checked the HOA guidelines, matched the color requirements, stayed within the size limits, and placed it exactly where accessory structures were allowed. When the shed was finished, it felt like a small win. Everything finally had a place. 2 weeks later, a violation notice showed up. According to the HOA, my shed was built in an unauthorized location and violated setback rules. I was given 10 days to remove it or face daily fines. I stood in the yard staring at the shed, measuring tape in hand, confused. The location hadn't changed, the property lines hadn't changed, and I was certain I'd followed the diagram in the HOA handbook. I emailed the board calmly and asked them to clarify which rule I'd violated. Their response was confident and brief. Your lot does not permit accessory structures in that area. That certainty made me uncomfortable, so I went back to the documents. Buried in the HOA portal was an old site map showing approved structure zones by lot type. My lot was clearly marked as eligible for backyard sheds in that exact corner. The map was dated nearly 15 years ago, but it was still the version included in the current handbook. I printed it. Then I did something else. I walked the neighborhood. I noticed at least 4 sheds positioned exactly like mine on similar lots. Some had clearly been there for years. None had violations. I documented everything. Photos of my shed placement, screenshots of the map, addresses of other compliant sheds. I even pulled county records to confirm my lot classification. I sent another email to the HOA short. Respectful, I attached the map, highlighted my lot type, and asked how their enforcement aligned with their own published documentation. They didn't reply. Instead, I received a fine notice. That's when I decided to attend the next HOA meeting. When my turn came, I didn't accuse anyone of targeting me. I simply walked through the facts, the handbook map, my lot classification, the identical sheds already approved or at least never challenged. Then I asked one question. Which version of the rules is the board enforcing, and why is it different from what homeowners are given? The room went quiet. One board member asked where I found the map. Another admitted they hadn't realized the handbook hadn't been updated. A neighbor spoke up and said their shed had been approved years ago under the same diagram. The board called a recess. When they returned, the president announced that my violation was withdrawn and all fines canceled. The HOA acknowledged that the handbook map was still valid and that enforcement based on newer, unpublished guidelines was improper. A week later, an email went out to the community stating that all future enforcement would align strictly with the published handbook until it was formally updated. My shed stayed. Now, every time I open that door and grab a tool, I feel a quiet sense of relief. Not because I outplayed the HOA, but because I trusted the paperwork they assumed no one would read. Sometimes the strongest defense is the document they forgot they handed you